8:34 and Tuesday, March 10th. A quorum is present. And so the Senate Education Finance Committee will now come to order. Today we are going to be focusing on mental health in our schools. We're going to start us off with a bill, Senate File 42, to talk about a mental health curriculum and suicide prevention. And just before we start, I'm going to whittle down all those announcements, but I'd like to do a few housekeeping items for today. Thanking our sergeants who are present to help maintain decorum in the committee hearing room. And if you have any accommodations, please communicate with that sergeant. And just remember, you can't stand in the aisles or behind. You need to stay seated. So we're going to hear my bill, Senate File 42, first off. And Senator Clark, if you'd like to come take over.
We're all in trouble now. Welcome, Senator Kunesh. First, we will obviously hear your bill as you referenced, Senate File 42. Welcome to the committee. Today, the intention is to lay Senate File 42 over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill. Senator Kunesh, would you like to move Senate File 42 before the committee?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Please introduce your bill.
Thank you so much. Members, I have here a bill to appropriate approximately $740,000 to the Division of Indian Work for continued work on suicide prevention in our Indigenous community. The fact is that suicide is on the rise in Minnesota and more prevention services are needed, especially for teens. For the past 20 years, the number of suicides in Minnesota has steadily increased, mirroring patterns from across the United States. There's what's called a shadow pandemic, where there are increasing suicide rates that follow the isolation from peers, developmental disruption, and anxiety related to first the COVID pandemic and then now the ICE situation that has been going on for the last few months. Suicide is on the rise for youth. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people, ages 10 to 24 years of age in the United States, and those rates have been rising for decades. Unfortunately, it's our North American Indigenous people who are at the highest risk of experiencing thoughts of suicide and dying by suicide. And so with that, members, I have here in front of you a pilot project for culturally specific suicide prevention curriculum for Native American youth that was developed by the Division of Indian Work staff in collaboration with community members and mental health professionals. The training will engage students in topics around mental health, emotional intelligence, substance use, and suicide prevention to increase understanding of mental wellness and provide practical plus cultural tools for supporting themselves and others through painful times. And so with that, we have a few testifiers that would like to speak to this bill.
Thank you, Senator. If testifiers could please come up as your name is called and take a spot next to Senator Kunesh. And at the beginning, state your name for the record before you begin. So if Beth Seidel and Midnight Naidu could come forward and sit on either side of Senator Kunesh. Welcome to the committee, Beth and Midnight. Beth, go ahead and please share your name as you begin your testimony.
Uju, good morning. My name is Beth Seidel, and I work, my pronouns are she, her. I'm White Earth Band of Ojibwe, and I work at Division of Indian Work as a Be at School attendance liaison and a number facilitator and trainer. In December of 2020, I graduated from Metro State University with a Bachelor of Science in Human Services. I'm currently a graduate student at Metro State University, pursuing a Master's of Science in Co-occurring Disorders Recovery Counseling. My graduate program will allow me to become a licensed alcohol and drug counselor and a licensed practical clinical counselor so that I can work with Native youth that are experiencing mental health issues and substance use disorder. I'm a two-spirit person, and for those that are not familiar with that term, it means I walk both in a masculine and feminine spirit. I met my wife in 2009, and in 2016, we had the best wedding ever and got married. I lead with these facts of my life because if things had turned out differently, I would not be sitting here in front of you today, sharing with you the life that I currently have, because when I was 17, I had planned to die by suicide. I'd come out when I was 17, and it was probably not the best decision I made to do. It was difficult. I've told this story before in front of the committee, so some of you are familiar, but it was just a really difficult time. Obviously, plan didn't work because I'm sitting here in front of you today, but had a curriculum like this been around when I was younger, that attempt probably could have been mitigated. Even today in the work that I do, a lot of students that I work with and families that I work with are experiencing anxiety and depression and just kind of not having the tools to self-regulate themselves in order to just be like, I'm gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. I am working with a family whose kids absolutely refuse to leave the home because they have so much anxiety because of Operation Metro Surge. It's hurt our families a lot, and this isn't just a one-off family. I've worked with multiple families that have concerns because of Operation Metro Surge and what that has done to our students and the anxiety that they feel in just leaving the home. So yeah, if you have any questions. This bill would be important to them, the youth that we want to do this with, because it will give them the tools that they need in order to self-regulate and to be able to work through those big emotions that sometimes as adults we still struggle to figure out how to do sometimes. And to just, again, just to let them know that like they're gonna be okay, that this is a temporary thing, it doesn't last forever. And as long as, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be breathing, but just like, as long as you're just like checking in with yourself and recognizing your feelings and knowing what those feelings are doing and what they mean, then yeah, I don't know.
You can work through it.
Yes, thank you. They can work through it.
Thank you for your testimony, Beth.
Thank you.
Midnight, you can go ahead with your testimony. Please state your name at the beginning.
Bonjour, Mekawadazi Miigwan, Indigenous Kaj, Geshkamanisi, and Dodem, Red Lake, and Dunjaba. Hello, everybody. My name is Midnight. I'm Kingfisher Clan from Red Lake Tribe. I'm 20 years old, and I work as a sexual health educator at Indigenous Peoples Task Force. I have my own personal experiences of struggling with mental health and feeling alone, but I went through DIW youth programs and the Keep the Fire Alive internship, and it has allowed me to practice our traditional teachings on a daily. Honestly, throughout the time of me being in those spaces is when I feel most supported and understood in a way that I don't feel in some places. I get the chance to be surrounded by other Indigenous people who have some of the same experiences as me, and it just feels safe. Having these spaces for Indigenous youth to gain tools and trainings to help through mental health while also giving traditional teachings provides a place of comfort, community, and knowledge that will help youth throughout their journeys. And I believe it's important to show the youth the efforts of their own community's support for them.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions for the testifiers or Senator Kunesh? Senator Kunesh, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members, for listening. This is a really hard subject in our Indigenous community, and it's not one that's just a recent sort of catastrophe, but has been historically one of the most traumatic situations. Mental health and lack of access to culturally specific programming by culturally trained folks has proven time and time again to make the biggest difference. I know from my own family experiences that when our members have access to the kind of care and culturally appropriate approach to mental health, physical health, addiction, that the outcomes are much, much higher. The positive outcomes are much, much higher. And so it is our hope and our effort here today to be able to mitigate much of those issues earlier and earlier in our Indigenous community, and this curriculum built by the tribal members for that community specific will really make a big difference, I'm sure. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, Senate File 42 is laid over for possible inclusion in a future omnibus bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And with that, I'll hand the chair back to Senator Kunesh.
Thanks very much for that. So our first presentation is from the Northeast Service Cooperative about teaching and staff mental health. And Aubrey Hoover, if you would like to, is she online? Oh, no. If you'd like to join us at the top or at the chairs, that would be great. And if you would like to introduce yourself for the record, and we can begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I am Aubrey Hoover. I am the Behavioral and Mental Health Services Regional Manager at the Northeast Service Cooperative, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you here today about a very important topic, which is the mental health and well-being of the adults in our building. The Northeast Service Cooperative began focusing on educators and their mental health and well-being back in 2022, and this was coming out of the pandemic when we were seeing a lot of burnout. We were hearing regularly from our administrators that staff are burnt out, they're barely hanging on, they can't do this anymore, they're ready to quit, and in fact, now they are quitting and leaving the profession. We decided to focus on this because this is such a helping service career where we say you can't pour from an empty cup, and actually we watch them do that day in and day out. But with COVID coming in, that cup was smashed, shattered, and they were still picking up broken pieces and trying to hand those out to our students and the families because they care so much, and it is time that we start focusing on caring for the adults in the building. I do have a handout here for you, which includes our slide presentation, and I do highlight in there some of the key benefits to supporting staff mental health and well-being. We have Vital Network, who's going to be presenting heavily on the improved retention and recruitment. So 2 data points that I really want to focus on are enhanced student outcomes. This is really important, especially as a state. We are putting a lot towards initiatives to focus on decreasing the gaps in education our math, our literacy through the READ Act, and we are also focused on attendance. One thing that we know from research is that the mental health of our staff and their stress levels and their burnout rates directly predict our student engagement, outcomes, achievement, and attendance. And so we need to be focusing on staff mental health as a part of that conversation. And then additionally, stronger staff-student relationships. This is something that MDH and local public health is focusing on greatly because that is a huge protective factor. And protective factors are important because those layered together help mitigate the impacts that our adverse childhood experiences have on our students, on their long-term health benefits, and their rate of depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, and suicide attempts. So this work matters greatly. We began this work, like I said, in 2022, and we started with a staff well-being survey that we ran through 16 districts. And when we talk about educators, we mean every adult in that building, because every adult, whether you are a teacher or a custodian or a bus driver, you are an impact person and you have an impact on students and their mental health and well-being. We ran this survey. We had over 1,700 respondents. You will see that the majority of respondents were, in fact, our teaching staff in the schools. We used that survey to help with some of our program development from the Northeast Service Cooperative, but additionally, each district received a comprehensive report so they could bring teams together to plan how they were going to take action with a data-informed approach about the unique needs within their district. And I do have included in the packet implementation efforts that were made by our districts. And the one thing that I love is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. Districts really were approaching this in a way that their staff was telling them what they needed from the district. And on our teams, we do have school board members, we do have school administrators, superintendents, we have staff, teaching staff, and we have staff participating from different roles within the district. Many of our schools started with some social connection activities coming out of the pandemic, and many have moved and built towards focusing on policy change and systematic changes that are addressing the needs of staff, their mental health and well-being. And just a few testimonies that really matter to me, I did want to share with you. Even just asking the question in the survey about them mattered to a lot of staff. They have said repeatedly that we do surveys all the time about students. No one's ever really asked us how we're doing. And for many, it was very cathartic. Ongoing supports that we are offering to school districts. We didn't just give them data and say, all right, here's some ideas that you can implement. Good luck. Let us know if you need anything. We have been working alongside districts for the past 4 years, joining their monthly meetings. We've been working with implementation science, guidance, implementation efforts, and on-site support, technical assistance to district committees. So we're not adding to their capacity or their burnout level, but we are the ones that are seeking out grants, knowing what their district is working on. We're helping them write grants to bring in funding for the initiatives that they are putting forth. And we are also the ones keeping up on the research, the new toolkits coming out. That is not on districts, that is on us to do and bring forward to them so that they can focus on teaching and focus on the students in that school district. We have offered opportunities in community of practice for districts to get together and hear what other districts are doing and hear what they could try in their school district. They leave with tons of ideas to bring back to their school, and also what not to do because it didn't work in another district. And then additionally, we provide ongoing staff development trainings. We are going to be at a school on Friday providing in-service training to some of our school districts about mental health and well-being, and specifically on protective factors. And then I did include a picture here of a mini-series that we are currently in the middle of, and it is addressing the root cause of staff stress and burnout, with the intent that they will come together in May, and for each topic in the series, they do have implementation guidance packets along with district-level planning sheets that they could bring back with their district teams and then come to our May meeting and really focus on one priority, an area that they want to explore that is a root cause to address in the next school year. Our stance at the Northeast Service Cooperative is that one of the best interventions for our students is having well cared for, regulated adults in the building. And so I will pause for any questions that you may have.
Members, any questions? Senator Kroon, or Farnsworth, I'm so sorry. Farnsworth, Senator. Go ahead.
Good morning, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I forgot my question now. Thank you, Ms. Hoover, for coming. I'm just wondering, there's a lot in here about the stuff you're doing for the mental health, which I think is, I work in a school, I see what teachers are going through. Did you collect data on what's causing the burnout rates? Like what are maybe the 3 to 5 primary things that teachers are talking about, or am I jumping ahead to later in your presentation?
Ms. Hoover.
Thank you, Senator. That's a great question. Additionally, I did provide a handout that kind of walks through our process and how we have been approaching staff mental health and well-being. And we did collect data in the staff well-being survey that we ran. There were questions about stress and burnout, causes of workplace stress, personal coping strategies, organizational supports, leadership support and communication, the sense of belonging, and then staff appreciation and recognition. And when we looked at addressing the root cause of staff stress and burnout, the staff recognition and supervision, followed by staff shortages and workload, followed by student behaviors and policy matters, those were the top stressors identified by school staff from across Northeast Minnesota. So that's why we tailored that training specifically to data-driven results.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So where is that or is it not in the handout? Those 3 things that you're talking about?
So in the slide deck, when we get to the last slide, ongoing support, there should be a picture on there, and I believe it is up on the screen, the addressing the root causes of staff stress and burnout. When we look at the 4 topics that we are covering, those were the highest indicated work stressors identified by school staff that took the survey. Does that help?
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Are you done with your PowerPoint?
I am, yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I don't know what these testimonials are testimonying to. And it'd be helpful if you put the number on the slide deck at the bottom for people like me.
Thank you, Senator. The testimonials are from school staff that we have been working with their districts to impact staff well-being. And they are just testimonials. The first one is a staff member who was new to the Hibbing School District, and this was following a staff connection and appreciation event. And as you can see, he said he's never seen a district do anything like this. He felt like we are all family. So that is really creating a sense of belonging. The following testimony was from an educator in International Falls who, following the survey, sent a message to her district admin team. I have been in education for 27 years and have taken thousands of surveys, but this is the first time a district sent a survey that was focused on me and how I'm doing. The following one was from a school staff member, a teacher at Harbor City, which is a charter school in Duluth, Minnesota, just saying, I love this. The school I worked for before never did anything like this. Thank you. And it was around a wellness bag that all staff received, leading to staff wellness challenges that were intended to promote well-being, health, and things that could be done in their classroom for regulation purposes. regulating their nervous system, regulating the students' nervous system, and then building social connection amongst staff. And then finally, the one that I think I am most excited to see is what we've seen with our bus drivers. The bus driver here said, bus drivers don't get invited to trainings. Being included feels like our role matters to the district. And I would say one of the things that we've seen from districts across Northeast Minnesota is that bus drivers, when they're included in staff appreciation or staff connection events, or they've been included in trainings and have the option to join them, they really feel like a sense of belonging and I have a purpose and my role does matter even though it's not high up in the hierarchy of the school system. Thank you,
Follow-up,
Senator.
Senator?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. I know that if the staff is happy, the kids are going to be happy, and it's infectious. And I've been wrestling with what is a school climate. How do you define that? Define school climate. And because a great place where kids can't wait to get in the building and staff can't wait to get in the building is the healthiest school in the state. And I don't know where that place is, but it's got to exist somewhere where everybody just can't wait to get in the building. And I know that a high school in my district redid some room changes and they got rid of the staff lounge. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, oh my God, that's where we went, for lunch. And now I was gone by then, but, at lunch, we all went to the staff lounge. And now I think teachers just at this particular school maybe just sit in their classroom and eat their lunch in isolation, which is not, weigh in maybe if you want, but I just really appreciate any attempt at getting the school climate to be positive and loving and well-being, and it's infectious. And I don't know how you okay, on the slide that isn't numbered at the bottom. Sorry if I'm admonishing you for that. I'm kind of crabby today. Maybe. I spent about an hour this morning trying to do it. Doesn't matter, but okay, thanks for indulging my side conversation right there. But I just wanted to say there's two things on this one implementation efforts that really struck a chord with me, and one is offering monthly breakfast for staff appreciation. And when you just said you invited bus drivers, that's the first face and the last face our kids see. Mm-hmm. And if they're happy to do their job, then the kids are happy to get on that bus and they can't wait to see their driver at the end of the school day. And it's all, and then hosting staff appreciation events and creating space outside of work for social connections. Those two things are so valuable, because one of the things I've been trying to and you're way ahead of me on this, so I appreciate what you've done. But what I call the 3 R's, and it's recruitment, retention, and most importantly, the respect that the profession once had. And when I was a little kid, if you told your grandparents that you wanted to be a teacher, they'd be like, "Oh my God, that's so wonderful!" And I hope you decide to do that. And then something's happened in our culture that teaching's lost that sense of being on a pedestal of noble professions. And I don't know what that's for a bigger conversation, but I just really can't thank the chair enough for bringing you guys in and for reminding us of the adage that if the staff is happy, the kids will follow through. And the previous presenters on suicidal ideation is just so horrifying to me. And again, if the staff is happy, yeah, okay, thanks for listening. I guess there's not a question there, but just a huge thank you for all the work that you're doing to, especially those two items I highlighted from your slide deck. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Swedzinski. I do have one question, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, but a couple years ago, we created a fund that would allow our school hourly workers to apply and access unemployment insurance during the summer. And as a former teacher myself, that was one of the things that my hourly workers asked me to work on when I got here. And so I'm really glad and I'm really proud that we've been able to do that, and we've been able to maintain that at no cost to the districts. But have you had any conversations, or do you address the fact that we now have those, that the summer unemployment for hourly workers, how much of a difference that has made, either kind of psychologically, because we are now investing in you, we want to keep you, and we recognize the struggles that you inevitably go through during the summertime when you're unemployed and not receiving any unemployment. Have you heard anything, or even asked that question directly, what kind of a difference it has made to be able to access summertime unemployment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have not asked that question specifically, but that is something that we can start vetting with our mental health and our wellness committees and start asking that question, because we do this comprehensive survey every 3 to 4 years, because it is 89 questions and it does take some time for them to complete. But we do spot check through our committees on initiatives that we are rolling out to make sure that we are hitting the mark. So we have an ongoing feedback loop with school staff to make sure that we're continuously heading in the right direction and their voices are heard, and we can start asking a question around that.
Thank you. I would really appreciate that. That kind of feedback is, really makes a difference for us here as we are looking at programming and funding that we put into the school districts. And are we, getting a return on that investment? When I go around and I talk to schools and I talk to hourly workers, we are hearing positive comments and reflection, not only from the hourly workers, but from the administration. And if you can start including that in your conversation, just, every so often, let me know if you've got good feedback, good, bad, or ugly. That would really be helpful. Thank you. Members, anybody else? All right, let's go on to our next presentation. If you folks would like to, I can get plugged in. And we have a presentation from Vital Network about school staff mental health and retention. Thank you so much. And Mr. Eklund, if you'd like to begin, please introduce yourself and we'll hear from you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you so much for having us today on this really important topic. We were actually here last week as well, and were able to listen to that really sobering but really amazing reports on gun violence in our schools and communities. And I just want to enter the room with gratitude for the time that you are affording these issues and the environments in which our students and our staff are currently working, including on this morning's testimony around supporting our Indigenous communities and suicide prevention. So thank you so much for taking this really global approach towards looking at well-being in our schools. I am Nathan Eklund. I'm the proud founder of Minnesota-based Vital Network. We are an organization that's focused on school, workplace, culture, and climate as a leading mechanism for retaining our school educators. And so we are going to share today a little bit around the sort of the state of the state in Minnesota education, as well as look at some of the work that's really central to how it is that we retain the educators that we've worked so hard to recruit into our profession. And I am joined by my colleague, Dr. Erin Robb, as well.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thanks for having us here. I'm Dr. Erin Robb. I'm the Chief Strategy and Impact Officer at Vital, which really means I get to oversee all of our delivery team, everyone who works directly, our Vital advisors who work directly with our partners, our district and school leaders and our educators. And I also get to oversee our data team. So I get to look at how is this working, and we get to listen directly to our partners to make sure we know how to improve our partnership and also see that it's actually working through our data. So thanks for having us today, and we're looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you. You may begin your presentation.
Thank you. And we also wanted to join our new friend and colleague, Ms. Hoover here, so she wasn't by herself, because honestly, when we learned of the work that they were doing in their region, it so closely echoes the ethos and also the outcomes that we are co-seeking. So it was a pleasure to be up here with you, and as always, feel free to chime in as we speak as well. So honestly, we agree that recruiting, retaining, and respecting educators is absolutely central to the success of K-12 education. But we also recognize that the topic of retention is often a problem that we admire but perhaps don't actually address. And so Vital's work is really focused on specifically on retention. When we think about some of the root causes, Senator Farnsworth, you were asking about, we really think about burnout through a lens of not just an individual's behavior or strength or determination or grit, but also really thinking about the contexts in which people work. We know that burnout itself is acute in education, but we also know that it has to do with how it is that educators show up in their classrooms every day, a feeling of accomplishment and of health and of hope and an ability to stay relevant as a human being in that classroom setting. We also know that the mental health of educators, as we have already spoken about this morning, is really central to the success of our students. Prolonged relationships with adults is one of the most profound protective measures we can have for our young people. So when we look at the churn and attrition rates in education, it not only comes at a huge cost to the academic outcomes, but really challenges the idea that these students can actually have these relationships with these adults. And so when we think about the social and emotional and academic outcomes, staff retention is really a key lever into the success of our students. K-12 education is currently facing the highest levels of burnout nationally in any industry. More educators are currently thinking of leaving the profession earlier than they want to. So that's a bit of a dire warning bell, but we'd like to also focus on the final one, which says these are dynamics that you can actually address and measure and improve, and that educators are less likely to leave the profession when they are involved in decision-making, they experience that respect, and that they feel supported not just through teacher appreciation weeks, but honestly the experience that they have at work every day. So from our perspective, we would share that perhaps when we think about an educator shortage, we really need to focus on that it's a retention issue, not so much a numerical problem of educators coming into the profession. We are simply losing too many educators too quickly and at too great a rate for us to keep up with. And so when our mission is really focused on working at local levels with districts and actually at the building level around creating exceptional workplaces, but the ultimate aim of the work is, can we do that at a level where we can actually help elevate the entirety of the profession? Quick thought for you. How many times have you seen a school in the Star Tribune Best Places to Work listing? If you were an educator looking for a job, how would you evaluate where you're going to spend most of your waking hours with some fidelity? So we don't even approach retention and recruitment necessarily from the lens of great workplaces. And so that's really the passionate work that we are currently involved in. Because we know, as we've already noted this morning, and we can repeat it a million times and should, that when schools are great places to work, they're excellent places for learning. So I too am a former educator, as many of you are as well, as a high school English teacher. I always recognized that there were two Mr. Eklunds who could be in front of the classroom on any given day, the fired up, excited, if not hyper one. who probably needed to be reined in a little bit, or the tired, depleted, and maybe a forlorn Mr. Eklund. I know who my students learned more from and who they wanted to go to school with. And so our job is to increase the probability and statistics that these amazing educators show up in that way every day. I'm going to let you share a bit, or I can too, Dr.
Great.
Rob.
Either way, I think.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're such a good
Wow.
numbers person.
Oh, all right, here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about Minnesota specifically. So that was looking nationwide. We know this is a challenge. And we know that it is here in Minnesota. If you look at Minnesota compared to its neighbors, we look at ratings of teaching attractiveness. The Learning Policy Institute brings together metrics around pay, quality of working conditions, related careers that someone could go into, and you'll notice that Minnesota is in the third quintile, and yet a number of nearby states are in the first quintile, so more attractive as a teaching profession. I will note, you'll hear a little bit about North Dakota. It's our first statewide state that we have worked in, and we know that they are over on the western edge and in the Twin Cities recruiting our teachers to North Dakota. So I will just say that we are competing across state borders in our surrounding states. For educators, a couple stats on our workforce reality. We had 20,000, almost 21,000, about 15% of all positions that are either open or are filled by under-licensed staff. This is from the PELSB, the Minnesota PELSB Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, excuse me, English is hard this morning. Minnesota has enough licensed educators to fill these roles. I'll just point you to the 38,160, so that's 36% of all of our licensed teachers. That's tier 3 and 4 teachers. Those are the most, the kind of highly licensed teachers. They aren't working in Minnesota classrooms anymore. We've lost about a third of our educators, and you'll notice that it is more, almost double the amount of open positions that we have. 1 in 3 teachers leave in the first 5 years. Retirement is only 16% of departures, so we do have an increase in retirement. It is only still 16%, and 7 in 10 districts, so 70% of our districts report vacancies they can't fill. This is costing Minnesota, so it costs, as we talked about earlier, student learning. Students lose up to a half a year of learning for every 1 teacher turnover. So that's a loss of those relationships and building. Also that contextual knowledge of the teacher, right? As they come in, they know what students know and don't know. The curriculum, it costs up to $20,000. Actual money. So think about what we put into recruiting people in, the HR costs, offboarding, onboarding. That's about $192 million in the 2024-25 school year. That turnover or the lack of retention is costing Minnesota. Right now, we spend almost $200 million on teacher recruitment efforts. This is really important. We are not saying we shouldn't recruit teachers into the profession. We should, but we are also spending about $190 million, about the same amount in losing teachers. So basically, we're paying double. We're not getting the return on investment in our $192 million because we're spending it again in the turnover costs of trying to keep people, keep those positions staffed. So what at Vital Network we're trying to think about is how do we move towards a strategy that includes both recruitment and retention. How do we have that return on investment? We try and make sure both new and experienced teachers want to stay and can stay by improving how it feels to work in schools, those working conditions that they have. And we really believe keeping good teachers is one of the smartest ways to help schools and save money at the same time. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want
If I may, I'll just want to share too, I think it was interesting in your research around one of the key mental health stressors faced by Minnesota educators, as you noted in, I think, the upper right-hand corner of your slide there, was staff shortages and workload. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we're thinking about both supporting the mental health of educators as well as the outputs and impact on our learners, we're really thinking this retention issue is not just a staffing one, but really is having a global effect on that well-being and retention of the people who stay. I think I'll just brief, as an educator, I remember watching my colleagues quit, leave, or move districts, and the effect it had on me. That was losing a coworker and a friend, people we sat in the staff room and talked about high school hockey with, and that impact on me. I can't imagine at the current rate of turnover, the impact that's having on culture. And I would just briefly mention around school culture and school climate. We usually think of that in a rather monolithic manner, as though there is one school culture inside of the culture. I would say at the very least there's two. There's a student culture and an adult culture, and they tend to be relatively symbiotic. And so I think the attention paid to the working dynamics inside of that school allow a healthy student culture to really profit.
Yeah. I'll add to that, since finishing my PhD in education, I've had a lot of friends. I have a 7-year-old and a 19-month-old, and I've had a lot of friends call me to say, okay, but how should I think about where my kids are going to school? What should I look for when I'm looking at schools? Like, as I'm sending my kid to school, the first thing I say, and this is actually prior to even getting to work on this with Vital Network, I said, when you walk in the hallways, do teachers smile at each other? Do they greet each other? Are you at a school where people want to be? I think is the very first metric as a parent I think about as well. So how do we think about working on it? We think about building better workplaces. And so infrequently do we think about schools as workplaces or talk about schools as workplaces, and yet educators are workers. They are employees, and schools are workplaces. And just like any other workplace, those job conditions drive retention, not just passion and purpose. So 52% of Minnesota educators say that school climate, especially leadership support, drives teacher exit. So I appreciated the question earlier, Senator, about kind of what's driving this. And it turns out we do have data both from NESC, but also from Inspire, kind of statewide, about why teachers are leaving. And we know that nationally, teachers with unsupportive administrators are more than twice as likely to leave their school. 66% of teachers who left the profession said work-life balance was better in their new job. And 58% of teachers who left said their workload was more manageable. And I put those in there only because what's interesting, again, we work very closely with the Department of Public Instruction in North Dakota to look at their data and retention statewide, and they followed their teachers after leaving. The majority of teachers left for a lower paying job. I want to go on the record saying we should pay teachers more. I believe we should pay teachers more. I come from a family of educators, a long line of educators. We should pay teachers more, but they're not leaving because of the pay. They're leaving once they're in because of the job conditions. So what we think about is how do we work from burnout, where kind of those negative external conditions are creating stress that no level of kind of self-care can overcome, to workplaces of vitality, where you have that purpose and energy and you can show up as the excited Mr. Eklund, teaching daily. And we do that through, I'll just put this on that hope at the top I didn't mention, but it's actually, we work on the science of hope. Hope is not just a feeling, it's when you have a sense of influence over the things that matter to you. It is making sure you are listened to and that you have an impact and a say on the conditions that affect your life daily.
Could I just briefly just say on the some of the pairings when we think about mental health and burnout, I'll just say that we are pro getting enough sleep, pro exercise, pro eating your kale, pro meditation, all of the things that I think inform our experience as human beings. We're also pro not getting your 7th reading curriculum in 3 years that no one asked you about. We are pro not having maybe toxic external conditions within your communities and how they treat educators. So when we define burnout, we really also look at it as an environmental impact, not just at the individual level, that we can create conditions of retention, create conditions that combat burnout. And I would say the promise and the hope of that is that therefore we can also measure and solve burnout or address burnout at scale. When we don't think of it only at an individual level, we're actually able to look at the context in which we work and live and play and really think of that as an input into our own retention and well-being.
That's great. And just to summarize more or less what was just said, retention is, right, our working conditions shape that daily experience. So if we think about this from a measurement perspective, what those working conditions are shape our daily experience, how satisfied we are, how much we feel like we belong, how much energy, efficacy we have. That drives the intentions. It seems so obvious. You want to stay or you don't want to stay based on those experiences, right? And that predicts actual retention. So when we think about what we measure and what we work on, we think about those working conditions, the root causes first, and then we look at how that shapes our experiences, our daily experiences, and then we look at how that impacts those intentions. So specifically,
Could I just ask you a quick question?
Please.
What would you say were the top 3 issues or deterrents to a really positive climate for teachers? Like if they said, what are your top 3 grapes?
Yeah.
When it comes to whether you're considering to stay for the next school year, maybe look for another school or look outside of the education, what are the top grievances, would you say?
Absolutely. I wish I had the report in front of us in terms of the Minnesota.
It's a fascinating question also, and actually this slide that you had up that you are now going away from, Dr. Rob, is probably a good indicator. So we measure a lot of our work within these 3 environments around time management, voice and decision making, and levels of care and support. And I would say that the contributing inside of each one of those are some mechanics of employment. So for example, in time management, wasteful meetings, for example, I know it might sound silly, but are an actual stressor.
Not silly at all.
And so some of our work is simply auditing a week in the life of educators, and so really thinking around time management toward the daily or weekly working conditions in schools. We try to decrease stress on that. In terms of the voice and decision-making, misalignment of professional development can oftentimes be a stressor, or simply not knowing that you're being asked your opinion about things that affect your employment experience, your teaching. And so we address that first at the building level, making sure that each building really feels like it has a legitimate system, not just a belief, but a system of how we can have educator voice, and also do that at the district level then. So how is it that we make sure that district leaders are informing their decisions based on systems of input from educators? And lastly, I would say in the care and support, and this is probably not going to be news to you, educators love their students. Students are why we go to work every day. And we actually see that in our data. But increasingly, we are seeing high levels of stress from educators around community support or lack thereof, or negative community actually driving educators from the profession. We glibly say that it takes a village to retain a teacher. So oftentimes our work is also extrapolating outward to make sure that our communities understand, first of all, when this teacher maybe leaves your community, don't think there's a line of teachers waiting to take their place. So there's a numbers problem, but also how is it that we can create stronger connections between our school districts and our communities to really infuse that level of support and care into our teachers, not just on a year-end barbecue or teacher appreciation week, but how can they experience that all the time. So I think your answer warrants of a better sort of scientific data rendering, which we would be happy to provide. But I would just say within those 3 contexts, those are, I think, kind of key drivers of how it is that we partner with districts to really look at those dynamics.
Senator Farnsworth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've kind of been waiting. Well, I'm waiting for the answer to the question about what's different about North Dakota and Wisconsin versus Minnesota, but I see in the slide deck you have something about North Dakota coming up, so I'll wait on that question. But on number 16 in your slide deck, where it says 52% of Minnesota educators say that school climate, especially leadership support, drives teachers' exits. I feel like we need to drill down on that a little bit more because, saying the school climate is bad, so teachers are leaving. Well, what's causing the school climate to be bad? And I was thinking about Senator Swedzinski, actually, when he first started teaching, just after the Civil War. If he had a student that was a behavior problem in his class, I suspect that if he wasn't able to deal with it, he'd fire that kid down to the office. The principal would call the parents would deal with it, and that issue probably wouldn't resurface at the same level in his classroom, which made his teaching a lot easier. And I'm just guessing, but I suspect at the end of Senator Swedzinski's career, the behaviors were probably worse. There was less support. And I think we really need to look at, okay, what is causing this? And I think we have to talk about student behavior. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have at the Washington Elementary School more teachers that have been assaulted and had to go to the ER in the last couple of years than probably ever in the history of the Hibbing School District. Mm. And I'll give you one example, and this is at the high school, I think last year. There was a student that flipped out in class, was flipping tables, was threatening to kill the teacher. That student was gone for a couple of days, and then he was back. So now you've got teachers that are like, wow, this dude threatened to kill us. We're so afraid to discipline him that we're gonna let him back. So teachers are on edge. They feel like they're gonna get assaulted. And on the leadership support, I think that's where that comes in to a certain extent, where they're like, gee whiz, the principal isn't doing anything. Mm-hmm. They're just sending this kid back to my room to deal with. And so I think on the surface, yeah, we can say leadership support, school climate, but what's causing those problems and what can we do about them?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I may, Madam Chair, Senator Farnsworth, thank you for the question, and I'll chime in briefly, and then I'd actually love also to hear from Ms. Hoover on what they're seeing in their region. I just want to put a slightly different lens, even on the phrase administrative support or leadership support. I think the nomenclature of data points like that suggests a failure of an individual leader, for example, and so it sort of draws a circle around a principal or a superintendent. And I certainly think our school leadership as an act is really important. Obviously, it's critical. However, I think we also have to look at the idea of leadership support as a systemic question, and maybe specifically around student behavior and student mental health, that we don't want an individual educator to think that it is perhaps her job by herself to handle this student, but we actually don't want a principal to think that it is her job to create a climate or a culture in a school or systems of support around that. So I think from our perspective, it is probably both and. How do we build systems of support inside of schools in concert with teacher leaders and their building or district leaders? But I don't want to phrase any of these outcomes as though it is one person's sort of job to either create or improve these conditions, although they are central to it. So I think really thinking about, for example, I also was able to send misbehaving young people down to the office back in the day, and I'm not even sure that, although it was a convenience for me, I'm not sure it worked for myself or for my students. And so I actually think, looking back, that there's a bit of romanticism about that, but actually we probably could have had a better communal approach towards what that young person was experiencing in school. And I'm not sure it was my principal's job, frankly, to work through that. I think it was our job collectively. And so I think when we look at even those data points around administrative support, I think the real lesson there is actually how do we support those administrators and support the educators in that building to be in collaboration and in concert with one another.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for addressing this, Senator. We are addressing the root causes of staff stress and burnout, student behaviors. This will actually be our next session. Because student behaviors showed up as a main stressor so glaringly, we have worked with community partners in Mesaba Behavioral Health Network and Better Together Behavioral Health Network, which is made up of staff that work in hospitals, EMS services, mental health providers, behavioral health providers, school districts are a part of this. So we are creating that external community of support, we have started standing up Youth Mental Health Day and educating students on when they are feeling dysregulated, what are some tips that you can use to lower your stress, to reset your nervous system. So we are kind of a top-down, bottom-up approach, because we do have to address the mental health and well-being of our students, because they are creating some of those behaviors that are leading to high stress levels for our staff. We've also been working on finding ways to empower student voices and hearing from them, what protective factors would you like to see increase in your community and your school? And your voices matter, because these data points, we're gonna bring it back to your administrators, and we are gonna work on going through the data and putting some of this into action. And in fact, Senator, we were at Hibbing Schools 2 weeks ago with an assembly with our 9th grade students coming back from Youth Mental Health Day, where now we are putting in a calm room space for when students are feeling dysregulated, that they can go to and just take a beat and re-regulate their nervous system, and then going back to class. And also empowering students to create mental health hacks, not my word, theirs, that they can be broadcasting throughout the school on a monthly, regular basis. And this was based on feedback from students. So we are getting students and staff to work together collaboratively towards the mental health and well-being. And we have seen that in other districts too, where now students are getting excited about what staff are doing around mental health and well-being. And they're wanting to come together and co-design and co-create kindness campaigns, wellness campaigns, where it is students highlighting staff and how amazing they are, and staff highlighting students, and making a big splash around that. So they're working together, and we are starting to see some of those behaviors decrease. It doesn't happen overnight, but we are working towards that, and community partners are coming in and supporting our schools like never before, because out of the pandemic, we did see where there was community support loss and parent engagement and support loss. And now we are building that back up in Northeast Minnesota. We have hallway toolkits coming out for when students are in class and having behaviors, their nervous systems aren't regulated. How can we give them a moment to regulate that and have tips to do that? So like, let's take a minute in the hallway, here are some tips that we can do, and coming back into the classroom. So it's an opportunity to educate these students in an education setting, but not necessarily on academics, but some of these things that they can use throughout their life when stress gets high. So we are addressing the student behaviors in Northeast Minnesota. Thank you, Senator.
Follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I've really been trying to take all of this in, and I think, I mean, Ms. Hoover, you talked about, maybe not teaching the subject, but teaching some of these, and I'm not quoting you exactly, but teaching some of these mental health strategies. And I think maybe that's where the disconnect is with teachers. If you go to school to be a social studies teacher, I don't know how well the colleges are preparing, saying, well, you're going to be teaching history, but the kids' mental health and their behaviors is much worse than it was 40 years ago, and you're also going to have to do that. And so I suspect teachers are maybe coming into this thinking, I'm going to be doing this, when so much of their time, I think the U.S. Department of Education a number of years ago said that only about 12% of school time is actually used for teaching. It was less than 20%. I think it was 12%. And so that's a problem. And I apologize, I can't remember testifier's name, Mr. Eklund. So you had said, sending the student down to the principal didn't necessarily work for you or for the student, which may be true, but there's probably 29 other students in the class that are trying to learn, and it probably did work for them when they didn't have that distraction. And I know we have a responsibility to teach all of the kids. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that I know, that I have the silver bullet for the answer, but, again, back to the Senator Swedzinski example, when he would send the kid down in the beginning of his career, the principal would deal with it. They'd call the parent would deal with it. Now, if you send a student down to the principal, if the principal calls the parent's going to say, well, what was that teacher doing to cause so-and-so to flip out on him, rather than, looking at it objectively. It's just a different world that we live in, where the behaviors are worse, and we don't have, in large part, parental support. So, and I think we just have to acknowledge that behaviors, every teacher that I've talked to that is desperate to get out of the school, they say, I just can't handle these behaviors anymore. I can't teach. I spend too much of my time dealing with behaviors. You got to get us early retirement so I can get the heck out of here. And I think we really have to talk about that as the main cause. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any comments on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one. To your point, Senator, this is not something that we are seeing in education in their 4 years or their graduate level of education. They are frequently saying, I became an educator to educate. I'm not a mental health provider. That shows up regularly. We have worked with the University of St. Thomas to create a graduate level education degree that has a concentration and focus on mental health, and some of those tips and practices for regulation and just a little more background knowledge on mental health. So we are seeing some of those curriculums start to develop because we are teaching, and it does look different than it did 10, 20 years ago. And so we do need to be better equipped. But yes, to your point, student behaviors is a major stressor for our staff.
Madam Chair, if I may just, I will also echo that. I mean, yeah, of course, I was an English teacher. I wanted to teach Shakespeare and composition. I mean, that was what I wanted to do all day. By the same token, I think one of the impacts that we have with our schools is ensuring, this is not, it would be Pollyanna of me to suggest that that some of these workplace improvements are going to, have maybe that direct impact on student behavior. I will say this though, retaining the energy and the professionalism of our educators at any cost so that they have more of that energy, even in the face of maybe challenging student environments, is really key. When we have challenging student environments and a school that is hemorrhaging time and resources, that is a compounding factor in terms of employment. I've said for 20 years I've been doing this work, nothing improves morale more than a well-run workplace. And so the ways that we can actually address the daily working conditions of educators provides sort of the bandwidth organizationally and even personally to be more capable of some of these challenges that we are facing. I do not disagree with you that the readiness of our young people as they enter into schools is more challenging now than ever. But I would only, from my seat, I would say all the more reason we have to be even more diligent in how it is that we work with our educators and create workplace environments where educators can thrive. And so I would say that if anything, it's only made that a more acute need as we look at our current staffing and conditions in our schools.
Thank you. Senator Swedzinski, did you have something you wanted to add?
Are you done with your presentation?
No.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say it now. Senator Farnsworth, I think everything you said is somewhat spot on, except I didn't start teaching during the Civil War. It was actually the Spanish-American War. So I guess I'll reserve my comments for when you're done.
All right, well, let's keep moving along then. Thank you for the really good discussion here, folks.
Okay, we're going to go quickly through. If you have any questions on the slides, we're going to go quickly through, but we can see that there are a number of questions and discussion that might happen, so we'll go quickly through the rest of the slides, and then if you have any questions on what we've shared, we can do that. There is an example of kind of the process that we go through, some examples, and I saw these also in Ms. Hoover's, about the kinds of things schools work on. I will just say we work at both the school level and the district level. So the district is running a process of continuous improvement at the same time the school is. Turns out individual leaders are not in charge of everything. Neither, by the way, are district leaders. Some of that comes up to you all, to other places. But so we work at both of those levels to improve. And Senator Farnsworth, you had said about North Dakota. North Dakota, we have worked from Alaska to New York across the United States, but North Dakota is the first state that invested statewide, and this is at a turning point in our work when we started thinking, when we work only with schools that have both the inclination and the money to invest in this, what we end up doing is exacerbating inequity. Oftentimes, small rural schools, for instance, cannot afford this kind of work. And so when we think about raising the profession, we don't want to just increase competition between school districts. We want to become a state where educators want to work. We want to become a state where educators are valued and that they stay. So in North Dakota, we have about 50% of the educators of North Dakota participating in the pilot. We were funded through the legislature to do a pilot. We were extended in that in 2024. So in 2022 was the initial investment, 2024. And we're looking to take this statewide. All of our initial data is looking very, very good across both urban and rural. And in fact, even more in rural areas, we're seeing growth in those working conditions across all of those themes, so care and support, time management, voice and decision-making, well-being. If you look at those sub-themes and the kinds of things that you would hope to see right away, right? So not everything changes immediately. You all, as you had said, Senator, there is no silver bullet. I taught the history of school reform for a number of years. It turns out since the Civil War, we have been working on school reform, and oftentimes it's so much change, so much reform, so little change. But what we can expect when it's working well is that hope is going up. People start believing that actually what they're doing is going to matter. Their sense of life balance, that they can actually do their job and still come home to their own children and be well. And that sense of communication, that we're getting better at these kind of foundational things really matters. So you'll see those kind of individual items where people are reporting big increases after just a year or two of implementing this. I just want to note that we work, and one of the great things we were really excited to be connected earlier is here in Minnesota, we have service cooperatives. In North Dakota, they have regional education agencies. They play the same kind of role. And we really think about creating a statewide ecosystem. So we partner very closely with the Department of Public Instruction. We have already met with the Department of Education here in Minnesota, as well as Pellsby. We are meeting with all of our service cooperatives to start thinking about how does this become part of Compass, about the system of care that we have here. We're not looking to add something on. We're looking to integrate to make all of what we do in Minnesota even more effective and keep our teachers. So just to summarize, and then we can close out and open for discussion. Improving workplace conditions with educator voice at the center really strengthens that educator experience. When teachers are able to stay well and teach well, they stay in the job. And so we want to together try and make this a profession of vitality as well as of value. Thank you.
Any questions on that? So I guess specifically, like I'm sorry. Okay, Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize to the committee for all of my questions. So, yeah, my North Dakota question, and you may have answered it when Senator Swedzinski was talking, but I don't think so. And I'm not purposely targeting him today. So I guess the question that I had is North Dakota and Wisconsin in that, like the third slide of the slide deck, seem to be much more desirable places to teach than Minnesota. Wisconsin is pretty similar to Minnesota in regards to pay, collective bargaining, population. North Dakota is quite a bit different. Pay is less, collective bargaining rights are different. And so I'm just wondering, you know, especially North Dakota with the pay that's going to be significantly lower, what is it that would make those states more attractive?
Yeah, we would love to say it's because they're working with Vital statewide, but actually we can't claim that. I'm going to come back to you if that's okay, Senator Farnsworth, and I'll give you the actual data by point, because this is not our data, this is national data that's aggregated by Learning Policy Institute, so I can give you data specifically on Wisconsin, North Dakota, Iowa, and South Dakota, and I can bring that together with Minnesota afterwards. I don't want to misrepresent their data, so I will go in and make sure I have that.
Okay, thank you. And that was, I guess that was my last question, but
Sure.
My last point would be, I think we have to try and learn from other states that are doing things well. So
Absolutely.
North Dakota, Wisconsin, what can we learn from them? I've heard a number of times in the last few months about, and this is a different topic, but about Mississippi and how they've improved their reading and
Sure.
math proficiency. And who would have thought 20 years ago that we would suggest that we need to learn from Mississippi, but maybe they have something that we can learn. And I think we need to look at what states are doing things well. What are the things that they're doing well? And maybe take those ideas. And so maybe North Dakota or Wisconsin has some ideas that we need to steal, and it might improve things. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Thank you, Senator. 100% agree. By the way, part of the network part of this is how do we learn across the entire network, across the entire United States, to make sure we do things well. Madam Chair.
Yep, and if you would send that information to all of us, because
Absolutely.
that's kind of my burning question is, and you said that North Dakota is actively recruiting from Minnesota, and our pay is better, and perhaps some of the other benefits are better. What makes people want to go over to North Dakota other than, they don't tax, which is what I think is probably one of the biggest things. But I will say that, Senator Farnsworth, going back to your, what is Mississippi doing to include? One of the top things that they did was they reinstated library media specialists in every building. So, if y'all are ready for that, I'm ready to go. See how that happens. Okay, Senator Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, testifiers, and appreciate the sort of the full piece of this, because I think there never is the silver bullet. It's a little bit here, it's a little bit there, a little bit here. Senator Farnsworth, I've been playing around with the map over here because I was like, that is on here as well. And one of the pieces that we all need to correct is starting salary, according to the data, for North Dakota is $47,820, and average starting salary in Minnesota is $44,190. So we're lower than North Dakota in terms of, as of June of 2024. I was surprised too. But looks like there's about 20 different factors in this, and it all looks like it's a little bit here, a little bit there. And I think I want the silver bullet too, but I think it's going to be, as you were discussing, all the pieces along here that we're going to need to nudge with. So thank you, and it seems like it's a dilemma to be managed versus a problem to individually solve. And I hate that North Dakota and Wisconsin are dark green on this map. I will note that Wisconsin is 3.6 on the teacher attractive rating, and we are 3.1. South Dakota is 3.2, and North Dakota is 3.8. So we can get there.
I believe in us.
Thank you.
And then Senator Umar Verbaden, you had a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sort of a comment and question. This was such a helpful presentation, and I was thinking a lot about my dad, who's a former public school teacher, throughout this, and the things I would hear as he would come back home from work very burnt out and exhausted, and then retired and was like, I miss my students so much. But I want to kind of share some of what I'm sensing as a takeaway, and then would like to hear if you agree or could add some more to that. But this, people being so burnt out, having a lot on their plate, it feels like it leads folks to, it's not my job to do this piece, right? And we're thinking about the students and the increased behavioral issues that teachers are having to deal with, and then if a principal is not available to deal with that, or there's not a behavioral specialist, or just everyone having a lot on their plate, right, and not wanting to have that extra additional thing on their plate, kind of driving them apart from each other, as opposed to how can we work together to support each other and support the student. I could see even parents coming into that, right, of like, I think Senator Farnsworth, was that you talking about, like, then calling the parent and then being like, what is the teacher doing wrong? Why aren't they able to deal with that? So maybe even the parent being burnt out and being like, I don't have time to deal with this. How do we move from that kind of culture of, I see it as very individualistic rather than communal. how do you move people to a place of, okay, we need to work together to solve these problems? Teachers, administrators, all the, educators and staff in the building, parents, families, right? How do you break down kind of that disconnection and mistrust and bring it to a place of collaboration? I'm sensing that collaboration is a big part of addressing some of those issues.
Yes.
Of course, there's a lot that we need to do here, right? In terms of getting that community support and funding, and I'm not trying to take us off the hook for that, right? But I'm really interested how you move into more of a culture of people working together to solve problems.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Senator, if I may, I'm going to go first and briefly with permission, because I think we're all champing at the bit maybe to talk about that. I would just, back to your father and coming home from a day of work, and I would say those of you who are educators, friends of educators, married educators, whatever it might be, I actually titled my book, How Was Your Day at School? But it was actually asking a teacher that. Literally, how was your day today? Most good days are made up of really cool stories around their kids. And most bad days are stories of not great day at work. So I would go home and rehab that, kind of think back to reflect on your own kind of conversations. I would just say around that idea of that it's someone else's problem or I'm just done. That's one of the elements of burnout is depersonalization. You grow cynical about the people you're there to serve or work with. And it's not that you are a bad person, that you are now depersonalized. It is simply that you are in conditions that have led you to that. But we can actually address it. And so when you talk about collaboration, I would just say it's beyond just collaboration as a nice thing to put on a poster in the staff lounge or a good idea on the first day of school. It's actually, can we build reliable systems where teacher voice is elevated into that decision-making process? Can we do leadership practices, not just as a belief, but as an actual sort of operating system of how it is that we manage schools? So I don't want just collaboration as like a nice thing to do. We want whole systems aligned to getting stakeholders and decisions closer to one another. Because finally, I'll just say that we do have a thing in education where it's going to be student success at all costs. Currently, one of those costs is human capital. So we have like high-performing schools with really high turnover, for example, because they drive people. So we would like to suggest, let's have student success at all costs, and one of those costs is investing in the educators there to do the work. And so I think it's inverting a little bit kind of the emotional response of this desire to serve our children, but to do it in such a way we're actually invested in the educators who we are investing in to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator. I'm quite actually excited that you asked this question because something that we have been working in Northeast Minnesota, my husband is a plant manager of a drill manufacturing company, and here's the work that I'm doing and says, what you're doing in schools, we need in our industry. And so we have piloted what we've been doing in schools in his industry, and I can say we did prevent a suicide, and we know that for a fact. But we also know that our parents aren't coming to those community education nights on mental health and well-being. We know that they're not coming into those, or at least the parents that are asking the principal, what did your teacher do? The ones that need that education, they're not coming into that. So we are taking the model that we're doing in schools and we're bringing it to their workforce, and that's how we are bringing that education out so that we can partner and be reducing that us against you and bringing in that parent engagement because you have a little more understanding on the mental health and the well-being side of things, and hopefully that is gonna lead to more partnerships between our schools and our parents, and again, stronger community support across Northeast Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Go ahead, Senator Swedzinski.
So now you're done, correct? Okay. Just thank you for everything that you brought to our attention today. It's been very, a lot of the floodgates are, in my head, are gone, and some might call me that I've romanticized the past and I'm naive. I'm naive or ignorant, but I never regretted a Monday or look forward to a Friday or spring break or summer off. I just never did because I loved what I did so much. And clearly, that, in my opinion, the first principal I ever had a philosophy of, I'm gonna hire the best teachers I can and get out of their way. And I don't know how you create that, what skill he had that he could see in a teacher that you'll love what you do and therefore the kids will follow you, so to speak. So I just don't know. I know that, when workshop week happened under my first administrator, the first day back, there'd be caramel rolls. Welcome back, everybody. Now go to your rooms and get ready for the kids. And by the tail end of my career, we got to sit through workshops and endure all the information the administration learned at retreats over the summer that they attended. And we couldn't wait for, back to someone's comment about meetings being productive and meaningful, and none of the staff felt that way about these meetings. And we just wanted to get to the kids and get to our rooms. And so thank you for everything you brought to my head today. And I'm really thinking a lot lately about culture and climate, as I said. And, I hate to romanticize about the past, again, your word, not mine, but, the Beach Boys, be true to your school. And how can we get kids and staff that way? And I just don't know, but I took a lot of notes today about everything that you guys brought to our attention, because this is maybe the most important job government has, is to create the next citizens. And if we aren't doing it right, there's room for improvement. And so my only question, and it's rhetorical, I'm not looking for an answer, but the retention of teachers and the recruitment, and a third leaving within the first 3 years, or 25% in the first 5 years, or whatever the statistic is, it's horrific. And so I'm just wondering, and I'm struggling with, is this to blame to be put on the teacher training programs, that they are not training or letting people know the rigors of the classroom, or is it the best of the best going, this isn't what I signed up for because the kids are unruly, I just wanted to ply my trade? That's something I need to wrap my head around in the coming days, months, years. And so anyways, thanks for being here today. Thanks for giving me so much to think about. And thank you, Madam Chair. I really enjoyed this hearing this morning, so thank you all.
Thank you, Senator Swedzinski. Any other comments or questions? Senator Westland.
Thank you so much for sharing this today. My son wants to be a teacher. He's doing all the prereqs right now for elementary ed and music, his two loves. And of course, I sit here in all of our hearings and I don't share half of the stuff I hear here because I don't want to dissuade him. I think that, so I'm a family law attorney, and I know one of the big stressors for me, and I'm thinking about this in terms of our teachers, is that people come to me and they want me to make everything better. Like they want me to fix it. It's high stakes. And I think I have to imagine one of the challenges for our teachers, where they're working in this environment that's really high stakes. Like they are there to educate our kids, to make sure that they are going to be set on a path where they can be successful into the future. Mm-hmm. And so when you layer on that this is really high stakes, like so much feels like it's riding on me personally to have this impact on all of these kids, and then you add on to that, there's no boundaries between work life and home life, because now we of course have devices that we're tethered to every second of the day, and we are accessible to people in ways we've never been before. We see, our teachers being asked to teach larger and larger classrooms of students, including students who do have challenges. Either they require special education services, maybe without sufficient support staff in the classroom to help the teacher. It's easy to see how we are reaching this point of burnout for so many teachers, and I think it's happening in other professions as well. We look at our first responders. I think there's some similarities there. Again, high stakes. And we are looking to people to say, you do this. And the comments that I've heard from my colleagues is about creating more of a sense of collaboration. It's not parents against teachers, it's parents with teachers. It's not the administration against teachers and staff. It's working together collaboratively to figure out how to accomplish the mission and the objective of the school, which is to teach our learners so that they can be good, productive people into the future. And so I do want to thank you for bringing all this today. It's a complex issue. And as Senator Hoover-Baton said, I think that there are roles that we as a legislature have, but there are big roles for our communities and for parents who are also feeling burned out and overwhelmed and feeling, financial pressures. They are feeling the pressures of their own jobs and then coming home and feeling like somehow they're not doing enough for their kids either. It's just this sort of cumulative stress that everybody is experiencing. But I think that the antidote to that sense of stress is community and collaboration rather than operating always in isolation and feeling like the weight of the world is on my shoulders and my shoulders alone in order to deal with this. So this has been really valuable, and I just want to thank you for bringing this to us. We've got a lot of work to do, but I think hopefully everyone's committed to doing it, but it does take a village, and it takes commitment from everybody to do what they can, not more than they can, but what they can to try to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Senator Clark.
Thank you, Chair. My main message is still, it's all the little pieces that move forward. Senator Farnsworth and I have been chatting back and forth, and he pointed out there is one data set that shows exactly what he showed, that Minnesota's starting pay is higher than North Dakota, but the data set I'm looking at, so we might have a data set piece that we'll need to go back and forth. So I just wanted to correct the record that we're both right. So thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, any last comments from any of our testifiers?
If I may, I just want to go all the way back to the beginning and thank you again for, I think, the time and care and commitment you are bringing to this conversation. Just wanted to speak briefly. I think, one of the things, interestingly, is that education is one of the few professions where actually we have people decruiting from it. I'm thinking of your son entering the profession, and how many of our educators, sadly, are actually telling young people, you shouldn't do this. Interestingly, their own job satisfaction doesn't match that. They actually, people who say that they love their work and are good at it, still are decruiting. So let's end on a message of hope, though. Work done at that local level and at the school level can be so profound that actually you turn decruiters to recruiters. We actually are seeing, we're actually seeing, think about how existential that change must be in your daily experience to get you from a place of saying, do not do this job, to at least with reservations, like, actually, this is pretty great. And so I think if we were to hold ourselves maybe to a single data point of our own efficacy and impact on the profession, that might be the one. Not just individuals saying, I love this job and I want to keep doing it, but I love this job so much that I'm going to tell my own children or my own students to do it. If we can get there together collectively, and I believe that we can actually, and we're seeing that we can do that, that to me is a really great reason to wake up every morning and work really hard at this. So thank you again for providing us this time. And if you have questions, our contact info is in the deck, we will join you in the efforts on corroborating research and data points. But I think, as you note, there are a number of contributors to this, and we're pleased to have an opportunity to share one of those contributing factors with you today.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you very much for bringing your expertise, your information, and also your support for our schools. It's never easy. I know I taught for 25 years, and when I retired, it was, a bit of a relief. It was just after COVID, and I was doing both legislation and teaching. But I can tell you, every time I go into the schools to visit, I get that feeling like, I miss this so much. And I think of all of the things, all the students that I met, all the families I met, all the people that I worked with that, really made my life so much better. I can tell you just about anywhere I go, I will run into somebody who had Senator Swedzinski as a teacher, which tells us the impact one person can have on our students. And if there are ways that we can work together to ensure that schools are a happy place to be for everybody, then I think we will have been successful. So thank you all for being here today and sharing what you have to share with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just heads up, we will not have education finance hearing tomorrow or Thursday. So you have a little respite from us, but we will reconvene next Tuesday, and we'll post that agenda online later on this week. And so it is now 10:09, and the Education Finance Committee is adjourned.